What's going on, guys? Jesse and Andrew back with the 6-Round MMA show once again to bring you some amazing, hopefully amazing, pre-fight analysis to the upcoming UFC Fight Night this Saturday, March the 13th.
Bang, coming for the top, got the game in the lock. Every time that I drop, know I gotta go bang. I'ma keep it hot, know that I can never stop. Keeping everything I got, I'ma make it go bang.
Andrew, what's going on, man? Glad to have you back.
Nothing much, man. Just stuck in the house. Unfortunately, ran into a COVID patient, so unfortunately couldn't get together for the fights this past weekend, but looking forward to talking about the new card coming up this weekend. How you doing?
You say unfortunately, but I say fortunately because, like, fuck COVID and all that shit. No offense.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep looking down here because Andrew is literally down here. I'm looking at my phone and he's there. So that's what's happening there. Cool, man. So I know we missed you on the post-fight analysis for UFC 259 this past weekend. I don't want to get too much into it, and I don't want to bore the viewers at home because I know we already did the post-fight analysis. Well, I did because obviously you were MIA. But tell me what you thought of the fights. Quick rundown. What did you think?
You know what? I think we before we got on camera here, I enjoyed the prelims a lot more than I did the actual main card. I thought it was going to be a lot more competitive. I thought it was going to be a lot more explosive, especially you look at Thiago Santos, you look at Alexander Rakic. Definitely some fights didn't go the way that we thought they were going to go. The illegal knee with Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling. So overall, great card, but honestly, I enjoyed the prelims a lot more than the main card.
Agreed.
Which is funny because that was such a stacked card.
Well, I'll be honest, if history has proven anything, usually the cards that have the most hype behind them are usually the fights that have the most hype behind them. And I can name a whole bunch now, but maybe we could talk about that in a different segment. But usually they always fail because I think, like, subconsciously, a lot of these fighters already feel that they've already lived up to the hype and now they're just going to fight, where people on the prelims are trying to earn their way onto the main card, and fight nights like this weekend coming up, which we're about to talk about, there are people trying to get their name out there, people trying to grow their stock. And those fights, for me, as a real MMA fan, are just far more exciting to watch because I always bring up this example, but I don't want to see, and I'm so glad I never just saw Anderson Silva when he was Anderson Silva. I was glad to see when Anderson Silva became Anderson Silva, when nobody knew him in Pride fighting, and then he had his first fight against Chris Lieben. I love to see the evolution of these fighters, and I think this weekend we're going to see a lot of that in some of these, we have some veterans on the card, but some of these up-and-comers as well, ready to break into the top 10, top 5s in their respective division.
Yeah, this is not the casual card where if you're a viewer and you're just tuning in for the first time, you're probably not going to get those fans. This is for the true, sorry, Jesse. This is for the true fight fan, someone who's tuning in every single weekend, and we actually have a very good card. I'm excited for these fights, and I think they're going to be explosive.
So, yeah, and honestly, one of the biggest names on this card, we're not going to really talk about his fight right now, but one of the biggest names outside of the UFC and some of those, like, households, if you will, MMA companies, he's probably the biggest name outside of these big companies like the Bellators, the PFLs, and the UFCs. We're looking at Manel Kape. I love him especially because he's actually half Portuguese and half Angolan. But he is an absolute Rottweiler. If you watch some of his highlights, some people are like, they cruise the YouTube for those MMA highlights. They'll probably notice him from the Risen weigh-ins where he actually slaps Ian McCall in the face before they fight in Risen. So he's a little bit of a Rottweiler. I don't necessarily like his personality, but he's an absolute brute, and he's only had one fight in the UFC not even a month ago against Alexander Pantoja. So I'm really excited to see him fight this weekend and just see if he can really live up to the hype that he kind of is bringing over to the UFC from international waters. But who do we got first on the card, Andrew?
First on the card, we have Angela Hill. Sorry. Let me pull it up here. It's not Angie Hill, right? It's Angela
No,
Yoder.
it is. Yeah, no, you're right. It's Angela Hill, and she's going up against Ashley Yoder.
Okay. First fight on the card, we've got Angela Hill versus Ashley Yoder. This fight was scheduled to take place on the Serial Gang card a few weeks back. Unfortunately, due to COVID and some restrictions, it was actually scratched an hour before the fight card even started. So here we are a few weeks later, and this is actually a rematch of a fight that happened a few years ago. I think it was for the Ultimate Fighter 25. What do you think about this fight going into it?
Well, I think that obviously, I think 9 out of 10 people are going to know who Angela Hill is, and those same 9 out of 10 people are not really going to know who Ashley Yoder is. No offense to Ashley Yoder,
Yeah.
but actually, to be honest, I think as a fighter, she's very underrated. She has like a superb ground game, and of course, many people do have a superb ground game in comparison to Angela Hill because she's known for her fantastic striking, which she is fantastic with.
Yep.
That's why I think at the end we'll talk about this, but I believe me and you have different picks on this. But I think for the just occasional MMA fan, I think they're going to walk in and just say, oh, Angela Hill's going to kill this no-namer. But for me, styles make fights, and Ashley Yoder being a predominant ground game type of fighter, it presents a lot of problems for Angela Hill because Angela Hill has proven to have a lot of difficulties with those fighters that don't engage in the stand-up but rather take it on the ground.
Yes.
She lost that way against Michelle Waterson. She lost a lot of points in that fight again. And of course, Claudia Gadelha. She just couldn't handle the wrestling and the pressure.
And I think you're right. I think it's going to be a little bit more of the same. Hopefully she's gone back and she's worked on a few things. And, you know, both of these fighters, they don't have the best records, so I can see why your casual fan might not be interested in a fight like this. But Angie Hill, I do actually like watching her fights. She's in there, she's game, she's always ready. She's ready to go at the drop of a hat. And her wanting to take on this rematch, which is one that she's won in the past, but she just wants to fight. And you got to love that about her. As far as the Claudia Gadelha and Michelle Waterson split, you know, that came down to a split decision. Very, very close fights, but I do agree the grappling department is something that I hope she's worked on. And coming into this fight, her striking is always crisp, it's always clean. But coming into this fight, hopefully it doesn't go to the ground. That's where I think she needs to stay away from.
Oh, for sure. I definitely think she should use her kickboxing, which she's so fond of anyway. Keep the distance, maybe even work the leg kicks. I do think, though, even in those split decision losses, I think the only reason why they were so close is because Claudia Gadelha and Michelle Waterson are those people that actually prefer to stand up on the feet. But then when they realized that it was it was competitive when they were on their feet, that's when they engaged in the takedowns, and I think inevitably that's what got them those extra points and got them the decision victory.
I mean, before we move on, I think one thing that is a bit glaring is that Ashley Yoder did not have a full camp. She actually cut her camp. I think she had about half the amount of a regular camp going into this one. It was pushed out a few weeks, so maybe she's going to be a little bit more ready coming into this one. But you do kind of have to look at that and kind of squint your eyes and say, is she fully ready to embark on this fight coming up? Because we know Angie Hill is going to be there and she's going to be game.
So I guess it's no surprise that you're going for Angie.
I have to. Okay. Looking at the records, I mean, Yoder's won 3 of her last 8 fights in the UFC. It's tough, you know. Obviously, she's won 3 out of her last 5, but 3 out of 8 fights in the UFC, I have to go with my girl Angie.
For sure.
She's been the more active fighter.
By far, and I couldn't agree with you more, but I just think that in this particular fight, the style is going to make the complete outcome. And I'm not saying Ashley Yoder is going to completely school her, because I do think this actually has the potential to be a very lackluster fight, no offense to both women. But I think what's going to happen is because Ashley Yoder is going to feel that pressure from Angie Hill, Angie's going to get taken down. And I don't want to say it's lay and pray, but I think it's going to be a very inactive ground game. But nonetheless, if you're on top, you have top position, you're maintaining control, you're getting those points. Inevitably, the judges see that, and then that's when it's going to get her the decision to victory, I think anyways. But that's my call.
So you've got Yoder, I've got Hill. Okay. On to the next fight.
Okay. Who do we got?
Next up, we have Mr. Dan Ige versus...
Ige?
Is it Carlson Tucker?
Gavin Tucker.
Sorry. Next fight on the card, we've got Gavin Tucker versus Dan Ige. And a great fight, you know. Another great fight, solid fight here. What do you think about this one, Jesse?
Fight of the night.
Fight of the night. Wow.
Yeah, I do. I think they have potential to be fight of the night. You know why? Is because they actually have very similar fighting styles. First of all, they both have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. I actually think Ige has a little more in the grappling world, because I also think I don't know if he's a black belt in judo or he's
a brown belt.
At least a brown belt.
Brown
Thank
belt.
you.
Yep.
You're the fucking man. But I think when it comes down to breaking the fight to like the finest details, and literally it could only be my perception because it may not even be accurate, but what I see when I watch these guys in each of these fights, Ige has fought the stiffer competition, no doubt about it, especially in his last 3 fights. His last one was against Calvin Kattar. Didn't necessarily go his way, but it was a great fight. But I do think Ige, as much cardio that he has, as much energy that he has, I do think that his striking is a little loopier than Gavin Tucker's is. I find Gavin to be a straight arrow type of striker, and I think as long as he can be as durable as Ige, I think he can pull off the victory just because I think he can land those cleaner strikes, and we know he can take a shot for sure. And I think it's going to come down to that for sure. It's going to come down to the accuracy of the strikes, and I think Gavin can do it as long as he can stay away from that aggression and keep him at bay.
Yep, and he's been great since his first loss. I mean, he was all but undefeated until, who was that loss against? It was a few fights ago.
Oh my God, Rick Glenn.
Rick Glenn, yeah.
Yeah, but that was in 2017.
So,
I mean, that's
so it was a while
almost
ago.
3.5 years ago. Yeah,
yeah, and he looked great again in his last fight.
Yep.
He's got great cardio. He's got great grappling. But you look at a guy like Dan Ige, and you have to look, you're always a culmination of who you surround yourself with. And I think with his affiliation with Dominance MMA, hanging around Khabib, hanging around Kamaru Usman, these high-level guys, he's able to soak up all that information, all that knowledge. So I think he is probably going to have a bit of an advantage in the grappling. But his striking is amazing too. I mean, you look at his fights against Bektik and against Barbosa, and he looked very sharp, and he edged those guys out. So when it comes to a technical fight on the feet, especially these two being the same height, he actually has the reach advantage. I think he's going to come in a bit sharper than Tucker.
Yeah, you think it's going to be a stand-up fight too, right? Because I think both the elite ground games of both of them are just going to kind of cancel each other out, and they're just going to keep it standing.
Yeah, and I mean, Tucker training with the world-class legend in Firas Zahabi. These guys, I think they're going to be a little bit... their ground game is going to run parallel, so I think it's going to be definitely a striking competition.
Yeah. Just before we move on to the next fight, because obviously I know you got Ige, and obviously you know I have Gavin Tucker, and I have him by decision, by the way. I think it's going to be a striking match, and I think those cleaner shots are just going to edge him on the competition. Both these guys can go 3 rounds, no problem, in my opinion.
Yep.
But I just funny because I was looking at the last person that Gavin Tucker beat, and he won unanimous decision against Billy Quarantillo.
Quarantillo, yeah.
He's in quarantine like you are, bro.
I feel like I'm Quarantillo right now.
You are super Quarantillo.
Yeah. Oh boy.
All right, let's fucking get the show on the road. What's next, dude? Oh, we got a heavyweight clash. That's the next one, right?
That's the next one. But Jesse, before we move on, I just want to double check how this is looking. Should I do that? Just because I
No.
No. Just leave it.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
We're good. It's going, right?
Let it keep running. Yep.
It's going, right?
I believe so. Yep, still recording.
Roll the dice. Don't worry, we're good. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so let's do the next one, the next heavyweight clash. As long as it's on record, bro, we're good. I know technical difficulties, but we're trying to make the content for you guys, so this is the only way we can do it right now. So we apologize, and soon enough he'll be back here as soon as he's all fucking COVID-free and shit, because I don't want any of that. Sorry. No disrespect. Okay, next we got the heavyweight clash. We got Ben Rothwell against Felipe, what's his last name? Felipe Lins? Lines.
Yeah.
Lins.
Yep.
Lins.
Phil Lins. I'm gonna call him. I'm gonna call him Phil.
Filippo. I'm gonna call him Felipe. Felipe. Felipe is an OG, triple OG. Actually, Felipe is not a name that's really a lot of people are aware of. I mean, one of the biggest names he's fought in the UFC was Andrei Arlovski, but he actually spent a lot of his time over at PFL, which is another big-time organization. They actually bought out World Series of Fighting. Ray Sifu is the owner of that one. It's a very successful organization, and I love that because they do that tournament style. So the one thing about Felipe is he is not unfamiliar with wars, and I know that sounds stupid, but try having 2 or 3 wars in the same day, which is what Felipe is not unfamiliar with. Where we can't really say that about Ben Rothwell. I mean, Ben Rothwell, longtime vet, kind of well-rounded. He's got very, very heavy strikes. He's relentless. He's afraid of nobody. He definitely has a lot more experience, a lot more tenure in the octagon cage as well. So this one is going to be, I think, less interesting than you think it's going to be.
Well, it's going to be just a slugfest, and it's just going to be one of those fights where you've got two very heavy-handed individuals that are just going to slug it out. I think Linz is a bit more technical, if I can go there. Obviously, he's still trying to find that first win within the octagon, so he might come out a little bit hungrier. But the one thing I always notice with Rothwell is he carries his hands so low, and he really, really always, checks those punches with his chin. And it's only
and he does it well.
He does it very well. But I think speed advantage goes to Linz. I think the younger individual, he's a bit younger, right?
Yeah, he's a bit. I think he's like a couple of years. I don't know what the exact age difference is.
Yeah.
But do you know why he's faster than Ben Rothwell?
I'm gonna say he's smaller, the smaller individual.
Yeah. So he spent most of his career at light heavyweight.
Okay. So
that's why. Yeah, he's coming up, and I think that's a big problem because Ben Rothwell is a huge heavyweight. And maybe you're more technical. Maybe you land every 4 strikes to Ben Rothwell's 1, but he can land the heaviest strikes and keep coming through. And I literally think, if I'm going to make my prediction now, and then I can let you speak for sure, but I think Ben Rothwell is literally going to finish this so fast in the first round by devastating a knockout, and then Felipe is going to say goodbye to the UFC. Hope that doesn't happen. I don't wish anybody to lose their jobs or anything like that, and hope he's still given another chance as well in the octagon after the fact. But I do think Ben Rothwell's a vet, and Felipe's faster, but he's significantly smaller. And Ben Rothwell is a very tall guy, very lanky guy, and he has one-punch knockout power from crazy angles. I think it's going to be devastating. I think Felipe is going out in round 1. Like, I don't even question it in my head.
Yeah, I could see that happening too. It is the heavyweight division, and every individual in the heavyweight division has that knockout power, as far as I know. But I think coming into this, Linz had a few tough fights. They fed him Arlovsky right away as soon as he enters the UFC, which is a tough fight. And then who else did he just fought? Tanner Boser. And Boser, a Canadian guy, very crisp boxing, very light on his feet, very fast. So I like the idea that he hasn't found that first win in the UFC, and I think he has a hungrier mindset coming into this fight. And I think I like the idea that he's going to be a bit faster as well. While still maintaining that power in his hands. So I like Linz for this fight.
Okay, I see that. Yeah, I think it's gonna be very quick once again, and that's one of those things too. This is one of the reasons why I do think he's gonna win by knockout. Sorry, Ben Rothwell, is because going up against Andrei Arlovsky is a huge vet. But that fight you lost by decision, and I love Arlovsky. But if anybody knows and can correlate Arlovsky to one variable, it's that he has a glass jaw. If you can't rubber someone that has a very, very glass jaw, good luck trying to even remotely stun somebody that has a granite jaw, and that's where I think is going to make the difference. I'm not saying skill-wise Ben is greater, because I don't think Ben, in my opinion, is a very skillful fighter. So I do think Felipe is owning them in that realm, but I think it's not going to be about skill in this. I think it's just going to be about raw power.
Yeah.
So I got first round knockout, and I'm honestly, I don't even want to break it down, but I'm talking maybe the first minute and a half.
Wow.
Because it's not going to take more than 2 shots to really change Felipe's whole life.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I disagree with you, but we'll
I know.
see. We'll see how it works out. So far, we've disagreed with each other on every single fight so far. So
well, great.
It's
You're in quarantine and I'm not, so fuck y'all, bro.
It's gonna be, maybe my mind is changing a little bit while I'm in the house here. So we'll see what happens.
So next up on the card, we have a light heavyweight clash against very, very tough. Actually, they're both very tough. Yeah. We got the return of Misha Zurkanov, and he's actually going up against, honestly, I think a very tough, very strong, very well-rounded up-and-comer in Ryan Spann. Superman Spann.
Yep. Tough loss last time, Ryan Spann. Johnny Walker, I think it was.
Johnny Walker's knocked out both of them.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Johnny Walker called out John Jones afterwards, though, right? And look what happened there. Yeah. The John Jones curse. But
Well, yeah.
this is a great fight. Misha hasn't fought in about 2 years, which is the first thing that I kind of look at this fight and say, definitely Ryan Spann has been a bit more active. But an interesting...
Far more.
Far more active.
Far more.
Yeah.
He's fought. Okay, so 'cause he beat Jimmy Crute.
Yes.
He beat Jimmy Crute in September of 2019, right? That's the date I'm looking at here. Yeah. And since that day, Ryan Spann has fought 3 times.
Wow.
3 times, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Serkinov
so-
hasn't fought since 2019. So it's been a while. It's been definitely something... I don't know why he's taken such a long time off. Again, another Canadian fellow. So I think he's right here in Toronto. But maybe is it a good fight to come back to? What do you think?
No. Well, actually, it can be. It can be. The reason why I'm saying it can be, and I'm kind of changing my tone a little bit, is because Misha Zirkonov is very good on the ground, which is, I think, where he should take this fight.
Yeah.
But it could be very bad if you decide to stand up and bang with him. Here's why. Misha Zirkonov, in his last 5 fights, he's been devastatingly knocked out 3 times.
Yes.
And that is not a thing. That is not a thing, no matter how much you try, no matter how hard you work, it has never proven to be a thing that you can recover from. Every fighter, when they get knocked out once, especially now he's been knocked out 3 times, so it wasn't like this fluke thing. They get rubbered every single time, and they're not able to absorb that punishment in those blows they've once been able to absorb. And that's why I think Misha Zirkonov needs to not use his striking power, because he's very strong, but immediately try and find a way to take Ryan Spann to the ground, because Ryan Spann is younger, he's hungrier, he's a thug, and he has amazing knockout power. He's amazing knockout power, just like Misha does. But like I said, I think the chins are going to make the difference here. So, I mean...
At the same time, too, Ryan Spann is a BJJ specialist. He's very good on the ground as well. I don't think to the degree that Serkinov is, but I do agree with you. I think that's where the fight needs to go. If you look at Serkinov's track record, most of his wins are on the ground, are submissions, right? But at the same time as well, while I say that, most of the fighters that have knocked out Serkinov have been far more technical fighters, better strikers than Ryan Spann, in my opinion.
Except for Volkan Oezdemir, that's what I think. But
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, no, I see that. I see it, and I get what you're saying, and it makes complete sense. And I can't say you're wrong, because you're not. I just think no matter who you're fighting, it doesn't matter if you're fighting John Jones back-to-back against Francis Ngannou back-to-back. I know I'm saying ridiculous names right now. Another knockout artist. It doesn't matter if they're amazing and on paper they're supposed to beat you. The fact is that your body shut down completely 3 times. What I'm saying is the human anatomy, the body is not meant to do that.
Right.
Each time you get knocked out is like a severe concussion. Right? It's a long time to recoup, and you never fully recuperate from it, nor will your chin or your head ever be the same. So that's what I'm saying here. I'm not saying that the competition, he shouldn't have lost to him. Yes, maybe on paper he should have lost, but the fact of the fact is he got knocked out, and that's no good. 3 times.
So he's not as tough as he used to be? Is that what we're inferring here?
I'm not saying he's not as tough, because he's still always in amazing shape. Even now, I've seen footage of him training. He's in fantastic shape. That's not the issue. I'm saying you can't fucking grow abs on your chin. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, unless you're Brock Lesnar or Alistair Uberim, right?
Oh, 100%. TRT for the win.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I do agree with you, but Ryan Spann at the same time, that elbow from Johnny Walker sent him into a different dimension as well. And I think that's the problem with Ryan Spann, is he gets too stuck into what he's doing. He comes in with one game plan, and he may not be willing to shift the game plan. And he was stuck in on that double, and he was just taking, I think he took like 20 shots to the side of the head before the fight was called. So
Yeah.
I definitely think it's going to go to submission. But with Serkinov being such a well-rounded fighter, he could very well keep this on the feet and maybe win there as well.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. We'll see. I got Ryan Spann again. I think Misha Zirkonov is going to get too comfortable in his feet. And I think Ryan Spann is going to be prepared for that takedown. I mean, he should anyway, in my opinion. That's what you should be training in training camp, is to avoid that takedown and keep it standing, because that's where you have a shot of winning this. Because I know you said, like, his ground game is like, you know, he's a ground specialist, but he's not necessarily a specialist. He got those simple chokes that you kind of learn in your first couple weeks of jiu-jitsu, a rear naked choke, and then he got a guillotine against one guy. Because really, I don't think he has any tenure in the BJJ world, really. So I think it's just, kind of just like simple jiu-jitsu knowledge that you might have, a simple ground game IQ, where Zirkonov is very well rounded, and that's why I think he should take it to the ground. And I think that Ryan Spann is going to be prepared for that, catch him at the knockout, maybe not in the first round, but I do think it's going to happen for sure before the fight's over. I think it's going to happen. TKO, Ryan Spann, yep.
Now, one thing is, do you think that Serkinov has a tough time taking Ryan Spann to the ground if his striking doesn't work? If he's having issues on the feet, do you think there's any resistance to him being taken down, Ryan Spann taken down?
Yeah, well, that's why he's got to time it properly, because Ryan Spann's a very strong guy. You got to time it properly. You can't just grab the single leg like these guys from Dagestan and all of a sudden know that it's going to be a takedown. No, you're going to have to fight for it. You're going to have to time it properly, because Ryan Spann should be ready for that, and he's so strong. So I think it's going to be a little bit of an issue, but Ryan Spann all day.
Yeah, you know what? Just one stat before we move on. Serkinov averages 4.5 takedowns per 15 minutes in the octagon, which is, I definitely think it's going to the ground. So I've got Serkinov for this one, and you got Ryan Spann, Superman Spann.
He also averages 4 fights a decade, so let's fucking talk about stats.
Stats are out the window when you get hit in the jaw, right?
Sup? Yep. Yeah. All right, let's go to the main event, which actually makes me cry a little bit.
So the main event, we have Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad. Why do you say this one makes you cry a little bit? I'm actually excited for this fight.
No, I'm excited too, but are you not upset at all that it's supposed to be Khamzat? Are you not upset at all?
Yes, for sure. I would have loved to see Khamzat get in there with Leon. Leon hasn't been in the octagon for 2 years.
Crushes fucking face.
Another guy with a 2-year layoff. And we hope Khamzat gets better. If you haven't seen Jesse's video, I think it was last week you put that one out. I don't think I got a chance to get my 2 cents in. Khamzat's not retired. He's not retired. I can't see him being retired. I think he made an emotional statement. And he was under duress. I think if he takes the proper time and gets the proper medication, rest, he'll be back, and he may be at the top of the division in a few years.
But he's not fighting today, and that's the point for me, is because I'm sad about it. Well, he's not fighting on Saturday. That's why I'm sad, because I know he's coming back, and obviously health first. It just sucks. But Bilal's sick. Bilal's amazing, and in fact, you got to give it up to Bilal, because no one else wanted to take the fight. Leon Edwards has been having the worst luck also in the last couple of years, because it's not like he wasn't ready to fight. He just, for some reason, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but he was healthy. He just couldn't get a contract done, and when he did, the fight just couldn't come to fruition. A lot of bad juju, something's going on there. But Bilal Muhammad just fought 3.5 weeks ago and beat a very tough Diego Lima, brother to the welterweight champion in Bellator and one of my favorite fighters of all time, Douglas Lima.
Yeah, that was a great fight too. Bilal controlled that fight from start to finish. Lima had some great strikes, some great calf kicks. But in the end, Bilal Muhammad just grinded it out, and that's the type of fighter that he is, right? He's going to grind you out. He's going to make you work. I love his pace. His pace is go, and he's in your face the whole time, which I think is a great test for Leon Edwards coming back. Leon looking in shape for this one. I will say I've never seen him in the shape. Well, I mean, he's been off for 2 years, so I would hope he comes back in better shape. But
you better be doing some fucking P90X. Holy shit.
Yeah, I heard he was working with Tony Horton, so I think he's coming back. P90X for whatever. But I like this fight, Jesse, because Bilal Muhammad, this could spring him into the top 5 debate, and maybe we see another top 5 fighter. The welterweight division is a little strange right now. We have Kamaru Usman, who's cleaned out pretty much the whole division, so it would be nice to see Bilal in the talks for a title fight, maybe in a year or so. Because we know that wrestling, BJJ is kind of his thing. He's a great grappler. And he's got, you know what? I like his boxing. He's got a great right hand. But what else are you seeing from this fight coming into it?
Well, I mean, ironically, they're actually both like just as well tenured in BJJ. They're both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belts. I think Bilal is a little bit more of a higher level purple belt. I think he had it in 2017, so he's had it for about 4 years now. I think he's actually ready to get his brown, to be honest. The thing is Bilal, I'm so excited he took this fight. And it's a good fight for him because he has nothing to lose, where Leon Edwards has everything to lose. All the talks and all the online Twitter battles he's been with all these high-level fighters, these fights were supposed to happen. Yeah, Masvidal. I think even Colby Covington got in the mix a little bit. Yeah, but Masvidal was a huge one as well. He has everything to lose by losing to this no-name guy, even though Bilal is a very, very tough opponent. At the same time, when we break it down, first of all, if you told me who's going to win when they're both active fighters, I would say Leon Edwards, no question. When they're active fighters, Leon Edwards is the more pristine striker. He's the more accurate. He's the more versatile. He has more weapons in his toolkit, to be honest, standing up. Where Bilal's kind of just like plant the feet and let's rock him, sock him. He's a very, very tough dude, and he can absorb a shot huge. But what's going to happen when a pristine kickboxer, even though I'm going for Bilal in this fight, what's going to happen if a pristine fighter, Leon Edwards, at the top of his game, he's ready to go, starts attacking that body and starts attacking those leg kicks, basically taking away any hip movement at all, and thus not being able to use your hands. What's going to happen? Because I think each in their prime, being active fighters, this is a different time, but being active fighters, I think Bilal has no chance. But that's not the case right now. I'm just saying if they're both active fighters, which they're not. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, the one thing I always see Bilal do is he ducks his head when he goes in for that double. He ducks his head. And the one thing that Edwards is great at is timing those elbows. In the clinch, we saw it in the Rafael dos Anjos fight. Super crisp timing on the elbow in the clinch, but even on those double legs when Dos Anjos was leaping in, he caught him with a quick elbow. I think in the third round. So, do you believe that ring rust is a real thing coming into this fight for Leon Edwards?
I think it's a real thing for everybody, even though Dominic Cruz would disagree with me because he believes it's not a thing. It's all a mental state. And to be honest, he kind of proved that he's right. But I already talked about that. But I think for most of the fighters, it is real. And not because you're not going to come into the octagon out of shape, but because mentally you don't necessarily remember what that state is like. Also, Leon Edwards has never fought during COVID. Never. So he's not going to understand what it's like. He's not going to have... Being off for so long, he's not going to have that adrenaline of people cheering on him. He's going to come in and it's going to be quiet as a church. It's going to be a ghost town. So I wonder how that's going to play on him too, because he's new to the COVID world where Bilal is so familiar with this. Leon's used to being this big guy that everybody's cheering for, screaming for. There's no one cheering for you. And you've been out for so long. So I don't even know how he's going to feel in the octagon. It's going to be very, very difficult. And that's why I said before, I hinted before this video, and I hinted during as well, I do think, although Leon Edwards 9 times out of 10, when they're both active fighters, would win this fight, I think now he's going to get shut down. Bilal's going to want it more, and he's just going to fight because like he has nothing to lose, because he doesn't. He's going to put the pressure, and I just think he's going to catch Leon with something lucky, like a lucky punch, rubber Leon, and just take him out.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. I could agree with you, but I think that Leon's offensive game is as far as the welterweight division goes, he's probably at the top. Definitely a tough test in Bilal Muhammad, but I think that him being out for 2 years, he probably hasn't been sitting around doing nothing. He's been training for the Khamzat fight, right? He's been training for this offensive wrestling, grinded out type of fights that now he has probably someone who's going to stand up and trade a little bit more. I think Leon might catch him with something, an elbow in the clinch, make it a bit dirty. He's got some great offensive boxing as well. So I like his odds here. I like Leon Edwards' odds.
Okay, cool. Well, hold on for a second. Let's put the picks up right now.
Bang, coming for the top, got the game in the lock. Every time that I drop, know I gotta go bang. I'ma keep it hot, know that I can never stop. Keeping everything I got, I'ma make it go bang.
Andrew, anything you want to say before we close this off?
I think you chose wrong on every single pick, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We will see actually what happens. We 100% will see what happens. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for bearing with this guy up here in this corner, because that's exactly where I'm going to put him. We really appreciate everything. We really appreciate you guys supporting us. Stay tuned, because we will be watching these fights, and we will be putting the post-fight analysis here as well on the channel. And we have some other great things coming up the channel, other things in the works. Nonetheless, please drop a like or dislike. It doesn't really matter to us, because to be honest, I don't like the shit he said. So if I could kind of he said, so if I could disagree with what he said and give a thumbs down, like I would, leave a comment below, just engage. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, share it to everybody, and we're going to see you guys next time. Peace.
Bang, coming for the top, got the game in the lock. Every time that I drop, know I gotta go bang. I'ma keep it hot, know that I can never stop. Keeping everything I got, I'ma make it go bang. Better than the best, I'ma tell her with my chest. I don't got no time to rest, now they know what I'm saying. Everybody know I'm coming next, I'ma leave it in a mess. If they wanna test, I'ma make it bang. Step into the mind of a young man with the plan.